No form of digital media that's been more active since the start of digital media than business media. So what I'm trying to give you here is essentially as a flavor for that, okay? Where it's like, and then back in the old days, it was essentially it was the wires before they actually even had things on the internet. It was a matter of just kind of not just breaking things by the day, but it was breaking things by the second, by the hour. So here you're basically given news that has to be broken by the second, okay? And it's a game of pretend. So, I mean, I gave you 2 weeks to do this, so it's not exactly like breaking by the second. But the idea here is that you're basically supposed to kind of like, in theory, work fast and try to figure out what is the, again, the lead that matters to people, okay? What is the news that should be at the top? What is the news that like ultimately be in the headline, okay? And again, with public relations, the idea is that their audience is the media, so they're going to, obviously spin it in a way that, will probably put a positive thing on whatever happens, okay? All right, so big strong hint, this is not the lead, okay, of your story. This is the lead of the press release, but not the story, okay? What you have to do is you have to search the story and basically figure out, search the press release and figure out what you think would be the correct lead for the greater, wider audience. What I told section 1 class, I should have told you guys, is that with every single story you do, no matter what form of media it is, you should always try to expand your audience, okay? So this is normally, this type of news, business news would normally be for like people who just care about business, right? But you always want to like try to dig a little bit deeper, to see if it's something that can, be interesting to the public as a whole, okay? You want it to be more on the business wires. You want it to be on the Bloombergs and the Reuters business wires as described last week, but you would like to see it maybe picked up by the New York Times and or other forms of media too, okay? So again, once you actually do find that lead, maybe I'm hoping that maybe you figure that out by now, and I gave away strong hints last week, and also I gave away strong hints, really, to be honest with you, in the actual assignment itself. Contact Bill Borden, who, and he, this is actually unfortunate. I don't know if I told you guys last week. I told section 1 because he actually appeared before them, but he actually lost his job. He spokesman for KPMG, but they downsized. Big 4 accounting firm that not so big 4 anymore. Didn't cut back off. So yeah, I know. So actually, this is awful. I said to him, "You mind doing this now?" I mean, I know that you talked a month ago, section 1 class, and he goes, "I have plenty of time." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I was just laid off." So I guess the point there is, it's unfortunate. Bill's like a big talker. He might even say it to you when you actually connect with him. But the idea here is that, as I said last week, the last half of the semester, try to deal more with the reporting end of things. The idea here is to go beyond what's handed to you and try to get more information that be interesting to the public as a whole. And do that is to actually connect with Bill Borden, do that email that's right here. And he's going to play the company spokesman, okay? And he's going to give you information to basically help beef up your story so that it's more of a story that's of interest to the public as a whole. Okay? Has anybody actually reached out to him yet? Yeah, I would do that by now. Because I even said there, right? So yeah, by tomorrow. I mean, that doesn't mean that I'm asking you to do that. That's not the last time you have to contact them. You can actually contact them after that. What I'm trying to tell people though is that he's actually going to play a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Okay, so it's what happens in reporting, right? So he is going to basically, give you information, and it may not be like the most it may not be the most like it may not explain everything, and so you probably have to go to him again. And all right, and I mean, that information will be something along the lines. I mean, basically, you want to ask some very basic questions. And some strong hands. What happened? You know, to cause this big change and not giving away too much. You know, what did he do? 3 very basic questions, and then the impact on the company. Okay, those are 3 very basic questions you ask. You might not provide all the information on the first go around, so maybe on the second go around, you say to him, you ask him the same questions again. You know, I was watching that Kyle Rittenhouse. Oh my God, that's awful, right? That trial yesterday, and I saw the prosecutor go to him and say, like, I'm going to ask you a third time. You know, but sometimes you don't get the answer that you're expecting to hear or you want to hear, so you have to ask him a third time or a second time, whatever. All right. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Like I say, you have to contact them at least twice. Now, of course, there's also this video element again. And what I'm asking you guys to do is just, and then what we'll do is this is going to be due at the end of the day, a week from today. So we can work on this in class next week. Okay. So just be prepared for that. Okay. We try to get information for the story by then. And, you know, if you want to work on your video, the video is going to be a video again where you're going to essentially kind of add a little bit of fun to this, where you basically do a video of yourself and, you know, basically acting as a megalomania employee. I'm shy. I would be a little shy myself, but just be a little creative and basically reacting to what had happened and how you feel as a megalomania employee. You know, what you feel like what was done was correct. You find out what happened to Pauline, you know, that sort of thing. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. All right. So this is like not like a graded thing we're going to do in this class, I guess you could say, but it's important for you guys to actually, and I've had people who've done this kind of thing before, they're familiar with these types of systems, and there's better systems, but I want you guys to have an idea of what it's like essentially to actually input a story into, you know, essentially a digital news media system, which is pretty much every news system now. Okay. So what I did was actually, I sent you guys something. If you can call up Canvas. I said this is a form of an announcement, so, and because I can actually send announcements that don't go to the other section. I sent you stuff, and actually, I'm going to ask you guys to actually use your own stories if you have them available. But what I want to do is I want to actually publish this Governor Murphy story. Okay, I want to show you basically what goes into that, and this is essentially where we get into headline writing. Headline writing essentially is different from the writing in the actual story. Okay, so what you do is actually call this up. What we're going to do is we're going to use this photo. This is actually a photo that Governor Murphy actually released himself. All right, now if you don't have your story with you, I have a story for you. I would say I would consider it a version of the story. But does everybody have the story with them? Yeah. It's not a big deal. All right, so let me know when you actually are able to access this. What you can do is to download that photo. You know, just download it wherever you need, where you can access it on the computer. Okay. And then I'm going to go through the process of how to actually input this into the system. Okay. I mean, you're almost going to probably say that some of you, maybe not all of you, have probably done this kind of thing already. You know, do you know the term blog? I say that almost sarcastically because I say it to my kids and they say, like, God, you're such a boom. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm Generation X, but whatever. So, same thing. Anyway, you know, apparently, you know, they used to really call them blogs. I guess they really call them that anymore. And I mean, I hear people still use the term vlog, video on. So anyway, but anyway, so if you've done any kind of blog like writing in the past, the system is like very similar to what you used before. I mean, when I've done this kind of thing before, people said to me like, why don't you use other systems, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I'm just trying to use the one I'm most familiar with for a long time, okay? And to be honest with you, just the whole idea of inputting something into a system, they call it a content management system, okay, is actually relatively simple. They call it CMS, a content management system. Okay. Ultimately, what happens with that is once you input that into the story itself, then it gets posted onto the site. Okay. All right. And it's that easy. Okay. I just want to make sure you have some familiarity. And again, how paragraphs are spaced and why paragraphs are spaced the way they are and where the photo goes. Okay. Does everybody have access to this? I mean, who does it? I'm sorry. It's on Canvas. Yeah, I sent it out as an announcement because I want to make sure only your section saw it. Got it? Okay. All right. So here's the deal. Okay. When you actually input a story, there's actually a lot of like people who like go into digital journalism and they get afraid because they think they have to do things like coding. I noticed that coding is now part of all like high school programs and that sort of thing. Do you guys have any kind of coding or anything like that? Yeah. Well, that's great. That's the good news. The bad news is that you don't really need to use for this. You do and you don't. It's interesting. It comes up sometimes usually when there's something that goes wrong, okay? And sometimes these content management systems that news organizations aren't very good, okay? So they're not really built and they're not really adapted and they don't really update them enough. One of the problems is to actually like accept new things, the best way I can put it. And sometimes what happens is that this often happens with videos, okay? You try to embed a video, it doesn't like pop up, We had an issue at Patch for a long time, for a couple of years, where we would try to upload a Facebook video. And for whatever reason, it wouldn't size correctly, right? And no matter what we did, we would actually go into the HTML coding ourselves and try to fix it. And when we would do it, if it worked initially, was you changed the size of it, right? Well, for whatever reason, like one day it decided not to work. So for about a year there, we had Facebook videos that were like this small and you couldn't like click on it. Why would we use Facebook videos? Well, that's the whole idea of this course actually, is you try to do more with less. Back in the old days, really like the 2000s when we really started to use video and we really started to use websites for media, we would go out and do our own videos, okay? But, because workforces like shrunk and the whole thing, then it became really dependent on other people, and especially things like weather or, things like traffic accidents or something like that. Somebody would usually have a video. Probably one of the best places to get them was YouTube. Another great place to get them is Twitter themselves. So you take the embed code and you would actually just basically embed the video into the system. And often they have like a place, you don't have to actually like go into the HTML coding to do that, okay? But there's usually some button, like all you need is something that presses and says embed. You insert the embed code and it's done, okay? Anyway, the idea here is that you just really need to actually know how to essentially upload a photo and how to upload a story and ultimately even how to upload a video. I'm assuming people probably don't have their videos with them from the last. If you don't, it's fine. But if you do, let me know because I want to could show you that too. All right. All right. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to go to this. This is probably the most complicated part right here. Okay. I'm just going to use this because this is the system I've been most familiar with. Okay. Again, it's called blogger.com. It's part of the Google universe. All right. So if you click on blogger.com, okay. All right. And then once you do that, go to sign in. Okay. Here's the thing. Don't sign into your own. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to use another account. With me so far? I'm giving away my password here. Uh-oh. Not the one I really use. There's really nothing to hijack on my part. If you're looking to pirate me, no. Anyway, everybody up to speed now? Everybody up to, okay. All right, so do TD Dink. I know, weird, huh? Tom Davis doesn't work. I tried, I haven't been able to use Tom Davis as a username since the internet started. Why do you think that? All right, gmail.com. Everybody got that? What do you do next? Okay, so the password is the name of my wife. Okay. Lowercase Kathleen. Okay. Good question. There are two ways. Everybody with me on that? Okay. Hit next. Okay. Oh, Jesus Lord. They do this now. I'm sorry. Did they send something to me? Oh, okay. Never mind. Well, I have to do it. This is a new step. I didn't take this into consideration. I'm sorry. Just make sure this works. Yes, it's me. Yes, it's me. Okay, so I'm allowing you guys in. The digital media reporter should know this, or digital media professor should know this, right? The two-step notification. Oh boy. Are you guys in? Yeah. It's just Kathleen, lowercase. Yeah. That's pretty funny. Security alert. Is everybody in? Other than, okay, you should be able to see this now. Or well, actually, if you don't, you should go to the top, almost the top left here, and you should see. There's actually I have 3 different blogs going on. Yeah, go to Rutgers Reporter next. Take the next step on your Mac, confirming your Google account settings. All right, so looks like you're all in. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, everybody got into Rutgers Reporter next. So what you do is you go to the top left and go down to that drop down arrow. And there's 3 different blogs there. Hit report, Rutgers Reporter next. Everybody there? Okay, good. All right. So, I mean, I know this is again, there's a lot of this in this class is duh. Okay. But you've probably been doing it already. Okay. But to be honest with you, again, I just want to like, the whole idea is like, is to basically give the people the idea that you know, there's a lot of thinking in journalism, like there's a lot of people who kind of like overthink like what we need to do. Okay. One of the things, again, I've said before, is we don't need to have like videos that are again on the level of, you know, the greatest film page. Okay. That's one thing. The writing, you know, of course you would not want solid writing. You want people to write well, but there is a simplicity to it that's important. Okay. And that's why I made a point of with this story, this coronavirus AIDS story, is that you got like a whole bunch of people who want to like take credit for something when it's all about just like really one person in front. Okay. And what is it for? Okay. So it's all about breaking things down in a very simplistic way. Okay. Right. With actually publishing, it's actually, again, you know, very simplistic. I mean, it's great if you know things like, you know, what's the best thing about knowing things like HTML coding and stuff like that, is that you'll probably be like the, well, when you eventually do return to the office, which I hope is soon, I should just got a note about that, you'll probably be the person in the office who will act as the troubleshooter. Like you'll be the one, like when somebody's like kind of doing this, and especially with the older folk, like people my age and older, right? They'll be like, I don't get it, you know? And then you'll like leaning over to them, you know, saying, you gotta press that button. That was me like 20 years ago when they started bringing, believe it or not, Windows into the office. You know, Windows-based programs. Kind of like this, you know, it's like they didn't have it beforehand. They used these terminals that were like from the 1970s, you know. And actually they weren't so bad, but they were very simplistic in the way they were used, but they were so totally different than what we do now, you know. So when we actually brought this into the newsroom, there was a lot of, I don't get it, you know. And believe it or not, I was like one of the few people who got it. I was one of the few people who got attached to it, make an attachment to an email, you know. I was one of the few people that actually could put inserted in that code, stuff like that. But yeah, I was that guy in the office in 2000. Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's say I'm not returning to the office until January, at the earliest. So you're stuck with me. Anyway, all right. So what I want you guys to do is to go to new post. Click on that. All right, and it's as simple as this. It looks like there's like some writing there you won't see on your computer, but this is where your headline goes. Okay, and that's typically how it works. Okay. There are some where I work right now, they actually work with a system that's actually like 20 years old, and it's not like this. We won't even get into that. But we do a lot, but we actually lay out an old-fashioned magazine. So we actually have a program that's actually an Adobe program that we use to lay out the magazine, you know. So it gets a little more complicated, but typically everything starts with some basic, simple way like this, okay? And it's just like what you would have normally, you know. If you've done any kind of publishing before on any level, okay, you have essentially your icons that basically identify what you need to do, okay? All right. So anyway, so I want you guys to do is, so everybody downloaded that photo, right? Okay. Okay, so the first thing that's usually done, and probably 9 times out of 10, news organizations that publish on the web, they usually put the photo first. That's usually been the style, the structure that's really kind of started with the New York Times in the mid-90s, but there's really been an emphasis on being visual, okay? And trying to grab people's attention, okay? That's really been kind of the, I should say, that's been kind of the rule of thumb, if anything. There's no written rule that says that a photo has to go at the top, okay? But 9 times out of 10, that's what happens, okay? And again, the idea is that it's a way of actually luring people into the story, okay? Oops. Of course, it didn't happen there. mean, the first thing you see when you call up the New York Times itself is you see an actual, I mean, maybe it's not really at the very top, but you'll see it like maybe like very high at the top. You see what this is one thing they do now. It usually comes under the headline, okay? And wow, that's a hell of a photo, huh? Tensions escalated at the Polish-Belarus border as migrants face dire conditions. So what they do is they actually first try to grab you with a visual. The visual aspect of the digital media story is as important as the lead, if not more important. Okay, I mean, the whole idea with the internet is that it's you obviously want to have a news story that's enriching and it's deep and profound, that sort of thing. But the people who actually put together these news organizations understand that, you know, in the last 25 years since news moved to digital, okay, moved to the internet, that it's become more of a visual experience. And that's just stuff that they basically determined by studying reader habits, okay? You know, doing surveys, getting the, you know, trying to get understand what people want, okay? Another thing they want is simplicity, okay? So this is very simple. Photograph, story, all right? Put a caption right underneath, all right? I mean, there's a lot of like, I mean, it's interesting because like, when I've told you guys when you've done your videos, I've said there's too much space or too much this over here, but look at this. There's not a lot of style that goes into this, is there, right? A lot of white space over here, a lot of white space over here. You think that maybe they would actually try to expand it so it looks even, you know, and people like things modular, you know, but they didn't. So, but the most important thing is having a really nice photo. It really can be like a real eye grabber, okay? All right. So what I ask you guys to do is, I ask you guys to take that photo you uploaded or downloaded, whatever, and upload to here. So basically put your cursor at the top right here. We'll get to that before we get to the headline. Click on this right here, upload from computer, wherever you have it, okay? And then you choose the files and then find it, and then it should upload. Actually, I should do the same actually. Come to think of it, we have it. And I'll save it to the desktop. All right. So I have on my desktop a screenshot, bang. Yep. And then you have to actually click on it and then hit select, and that's where it appears. Okay. Do they have that? All right. All right. So anyway, in terms of like style and that sort of thing, is that you want to make sure, again, as I showed you the New York Times story, that again, it's more of a visual experience. So I would say that just looking at this, you get an idea what the story is going to look at just by putting it into the system. It's ultimately going to look like something like this, okay? That photo is a bit small, I would say, okay? The interesting thing is about how it's placed, and this is actually centered, this photo, okay? Looks like you all have it the same way. We could actually move it to the left. If you click on the photo itself, you can move it to the left, you can move it to the right, okay? You know, you can keep it centered. Let's keep it centered, but let's try to grow it. Let's expand this. So at least you definitely don't want white space around the photo. That's just, again, a general rule of thumb, because again, it's more of a visual experience. You want to make the photo as dominant as possible. So try to like stretch it so that it actually like, you can actually click it and pull it to the, almost to the edges, almost to the margins, okay? Everybody got that? All right, if you click on the photo again, like that, you'll see these options right here. Can you click on the A? That's where you add the caption. You really need to identify who's in the photo. Not everybody knows the government. All right. Okay. All right, so there, just type in Governor Murphy so we have a caption, okay? This actually is not him at related to actually Governor Phil Murphy. I'm sorry, we should put in his full name, Governor Phil Murphy. Ideally, it'd be better to have the caption to the left, but it doesn't appear there's an option to do that. So, all right. All right. All right. Everybody have that? Okay. All right, so this is where you want to now input your story. Now, this is funny because this actually could be the most complicated part of it. I'm trying to give you guys a real world experience. And again, a lot of these systems aren't really updated. So a lot of times when you actually take your story, a lot of times reporters actually, what they'll typically do is, they get tempted to actually write the story in here, okay? But sometimes it's not a good idea because things like the system sometimes fails. Okay, that happens, right? We've had like problems with like overuse all at the same time, okay? So then the system actually crashes, okay? So a lot of times people will actually write things on a separate Word doc or they'll write it in Google Docs or whatever first. I would really strongly recommend you do that if you would do any kind of like reporting or anything writing, okay? You have some sort of a backup copy, okay? But what I want you guys to do actually is to take your story now and now to actually just basically take it and cut it and paste it and put it into the underneath the caption, okay? This actually should be aligned to the left. Sometimes the best way to do it, what I do is typically is I will like right click or whatever, double finger click and do paste and match style. That's usually the best way to do it, okay? Because if you do paste, it comes out all wacky, okay? That's the best way I can phrase it. So I do paste and match style. Oh, look at that. It came out all wacky anyway. You know what? Here, hold on a second. Let me actually try the, oh, you know what? I have it in the, okay. Let me try again. Yeah, there we go. And make sure that like before you do that, you get out of the caption and I would hit enter a couple of times and then do paste and match style. Should we do that story or? Yeah, do your own story if you have it. If you don't have it, you can use that. I just left that there in case you didn't have your own story. All right. Actually, it looks like it automatically left. So online. Good. Oh yeah, you don't have to do it. You know, get it. In the caption. Okay. All right. So sometimes some of you had it actually aligned already, which is great. But you see mine's not perfect. Okay. What's the problem with mine? Does mine look like the way it should be published? What's like one of the problems that try to think about what you typically see on the internet and what's the problem there? There's too much spacing. Yeah. That'll be annoying and distracting, right? You know, the problem with that is that it's much like much like newspapers. People typically only read like the first screen they see. If you do like a Google search or something, I think it's the first two things that are listed on a Google search are very well read, but then it drops dramatically down. You get down to like the third or the fourth item on a Google search. Just reader habits. You can call it laziness or whatever, short attention span. But you want to make sure that, like, you know, people get their information, they can see it. So a lot of times you have to go through and you have to fix it yourself. So one thing also is that nothing is ever indented on the web. So make sure you don't have any, I think I saw it on yours, I think I saw indentations. So try to get rid of the indentations. Make sure everything is aligned to the left, okay? All right. Oh, look. Does everybody have a link like that? Okay. So here's what you do with a link, okay? This is actually some stuff that you should know, perhaps just to understand like what Google searches for, okay? And I brought up hyperlinking a little bit in the past, but when you actually post something on the internet, you want to make sure again that it's something that actually is a story can be found and searched for, okay? So if you have a link like this, what they do is they don't search for stuff that has gobbledygook link language in it, right? What they do is they actually want to search for something that actually is connected to the story, maybe something that could be a search term. And you might remember I brought that up at the very beginning of the semester, a search term, a keyword, okay? So what you would do is you would take that you would take that link, okay? And maybe actually what you would do is, in this particular case, I would probably just link the whole sentence, okay? Because I like municipal allocations. Maybe I would add, like, for a full list of, maybe add COVID, because that's an important search term, okay? Just define the whole sentence, okay? Go up to this thing right here, paste the link, and apply. And there it is, okay? I mean, you want to, like, there's two things going on there. You want people to actually like click and find out how to get assistance. So you obviously, you know, it says, come on. You want to basically, one sec. You want to basically make sure that people as a service, you don't worry about Google at this point. You want people to make sure they click and get the information they need. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you have a hyperlink to words that matter, like COVID, municipal allocations. Okay. All right. Does everybody understand what I'm saying there? What I'm doing there? Okay. All right. And then, okay, let me just make sure everything is in place here. Oh, we have another link. In this particular case, I would just, you know, that's an important link for people to know. So I would just hyperlink it, you know. When you do that, you want to make sure there's an HTTP colon backslash or front slash ahead of it. Okay, there it goes. All right. All right, everybody have that so far? Okay. All right, so this is the last step actually. And again, the whole idea with actually being, again, the 5-tool player that I've talked about is you have to do your own headline. I haven't made a big deal about headlines. I've tried to draw this again, distinctions between the way people write in the actual story as opposed to the way you write headline, okay? But headline writing is weird, okay? And I say that we're trying to be as clear as possible. But I mean, you guys have read headlines all your lives, okay? But what does it mean? Well, The headline is actually a different style from the actual writing of the story, okay? The actual writing in the story, okay? A lot of times it's actually written in present tense, okay? The reason for that is that it's trying to show action, okay? All right, it's another way of basically trying to grab people's attention, okay? So what I like you to do actually is I like you to try to write a headline that basically is written in that kind of way, okay? And try to think about the things I just said about, you want to make sure that headline includes like important words that relate to the story and also important words, because actually Google searches for the headline, words in a headline more than any other part of the story. For Google, the headline is the most important part of the story. Okay. So you want to think of like for this headline, you want to think of like a word or two that are very much searchable items. Think about, you can think of one and very much in particular, okay, that really need to be part of the headline because it's really something that actually still being widely searched for. You know, it may be something that they're searching for because this is where you have to put yourselves in the shoes of the reader, okay? It may be like maybe searching for a something that can help them, something that latest news about something that is dominating, you know, our culture, our way of life, that sort of thing. You want to know about things like who's getting it, that sort of thing, who's doing it. Okay, names are important. Okay. They want to know where. You want to think about who, what, why, how, where. Okay. All right. So why don't we spend maybe the next like 5 to 10 minutes like trying to come up with a headline for this? Okay. And like while there's a still around, so I can on the right track. Okay. All right. It's also a few things about a headline, okay? They actually call the headline style, writing style, headline ease, okay? Um, so that also means that like words are also left out, because the idea is that this actually goes back to the old days, okay? When you actually used to lay out a newspaper on a board, you know, they had to like actually fit it, you know? So words like essentially verbs to be are like left out, okay? That's why like there was a headline. The headline when people first walked on the moon said "Men walk on moon." You know, it didn't say have walked. You know, it just said "Men walk on moon." You know, and notice that it's also in present tense. Okay. You know, things like not all the time, but actually I would say less so nowadays, because now in the internet we actually have the space to actually write headlines. But things like "and," you know, prepositions like that are usually left out. Okay. Conjunction phrase, conjunctive phrase. You know, if there's actually like a term, a lot of times things like, if there's like, instead of saying like the US financial industry or something like that, they'll probably shorten it and say Wall Street, okay? So that's done. Very much a compression that goes on. I'm saying it's a whole different style. Okay? I mean, actually, as a matter of fact, in Europost, used to like instead of like calling when Mayor Koch was the mayor, he like they used to call actually usually whoever was mayor, they had this term that they use, and I think it's more of an eye grabbing term than anything else, as opposed to but they say his honor like that. I think I came from when Dave Koch was the mayor. He used to call himself his honor. Okay, stuff like that. Okay. The Yankees used to have an owner. His name was George Steinbrenner. They called him the boss, so they would say boss instead of saying Steinbrenner. Okay, in the headline. Right? You just see that in tabloids. Okay. All about compression, but it's also about trying to grab the eye of the reader, thinking visually. Okay. All right. You know, abbreviations, acronyms. You know, instead of saying Republicans, you see GOP, which stands for Grand Old Party. It's very much a phrase that's used. Okay, often. Okay. You know, and a name like Governor Murphy, they won't say Governor Phil Murphy. They'll do what? What do you think they'll do? Murphy. And that's okay. So again, that'll change though. They might just do Governor Murphy. They probably would put in the whole headline. Actually, we actually in my last job in the past, we actually did that headline with big character on it. So I would actually have to do things like drop. I mean, Governor Murphy actually would put, it was interesting, before the coronavirus hit, people still knew who he was. Most people still thought that Chris Christie was. Yeah. So I would actually make sure that whenever I put his name in a headline, I'd also, even if I had to like drop other words out, I would put governor in there. Now I think I'd be safe. But I'm just saying that he was also reelected. So, but yeah, but I probably would drop Phil. Okay. All right, so you got some stuff to show me here. Oh, maybe a better word is words. You know, those would say like flops or something like that. Probably that goes to what I was saying before. That's way more. Allocate. I want to try to avoid words that are kind of like, I know this is really a judgment call every single time, but allocate is kind of a word. I want to say something that again is something probably isn't typical speech, like awards, you know, gifts. Well, before, you know, near a post, flops, or you know, something like that. Yeah, actually, this is interesting. You can also, it's quite, you might do help us on eliminating coal. It's actually interesting because like there's actually like there's actually a way this is not stuff you really need to know, okay, but there is actually a way to actually like really grab Google's attention if you want to know, and they seem to really like it when people put something at the front of a headline and put a colon there, almost announcing, okay. And so they'll do something on the lines of, hold on 1 second. They'll do something, actually, I should do it here. They'll do something like money. Or they'll even do an exclamation point. You know, or maybe they'll use something that might be like a search term, you know, like COVID help. Cohen, Murphy awards money for $6 million. You know, COVID, if you actually put stuff at the front of the headline, it's an important search term. Lucas had something here. But you know, he actually had help is on the way. That's actually a good way to actually like grab attention sometimes when you put a colon there. Okay. That actually has become increasingly more of an internet style, but it's largely because if you pick like a word, you put it at the front, actually Google likes that better. They like everything at the front, you know, and then they like that way. They like that in a story too. They like, you know, all the big search terms and everything. Okay. And why do they do that? Because they feel as though when people scan, they don't look at the whole thing. They go by reader habits when they do it. Okay. It improves your standing on Google search if you try to like move things to the front. I think having Governor Murphy at the front of the headline would be good enough. You know, I don't think it's necessary here to have that kind of a setup the headline. Governor Murphy, the action is the Governor Murphy Awards. I think that probably works. I don't think you need to have the name of the plan or the fund in the headline. Again, that's like kind of government terminology. It's kind of, you know, I mean, think about like what's going for. You're basically awarding money. Just like that. Yeah. Murphy awards 60 million. $60 billion. Money, money, money. Help me out now, man. Actually, I think Diana had probably the best. Murphy awards $60 million for COVID money. What's that? Right? What are the important, probably two most important terms in there? Let's say three. 60 million, yeah. COVID, number one, right there, I'd say. Anything COVID, bang, okay? And what's the other one? Murphy. That could be a good searchable term right now because, you know, it's interesting, his opponent still hasn't conceded. This is the playbook now, just don't concede, right? I mean, come on. He's actually got a bigger margin than the Virginia guy. All right, so what I'd like you guys then to do is to, actually, no, I'll do it too. Governor Murphy. This is also something else you should know. All headline style also will change in terms of, also varied in terms of like what's uppercase and what's lowercase. It all depends on the place. Where I work right now, well, at Patch, we had every single word uppercase on the headline. Just the style. It just basically, I guess, is a way of basically announcing, making sure people see this, Where I work right now, they actually lowercase like the short, useless prepositions and articles like and to, okay? So I'm actually just going to make everything uppercase here. It really doesn't matter. 16 million. COVID, by the way, is always, the style is always, I'll have it uppercase. Okay. Oops. Make sure you don't make a mistake in a headline. You make a mistake in a headline, that's bad. Because actually Google will literally cancel you, if I may use that term, if you have a mistaken headline. Because what happens is it ends up in the actual URL. Everybody know what a URL is? That's the actual link to your story, okay? When you make a mistake, what happens is that they actually scan the URLs too for important words. So that's where the headline typically goes into the URL, the words from there. If you make a mistake there, they actually literally, and I know this for a fact, they kick your story off of the Google search, okay? We do not like mistakes. It kind of sucks when you make a mistake the first time and you have to fix it and it's too late, All right, so if you do the headline, I want you guys to hit publish. So click publish, and it'll say publish to your blog and confirm, and bang. Hey, there you all are. Wow. All right, now if you want to look at it, you hit view blog. Of course, I didn't show you to do a byline. I'm sorry about that, but I mean, it's basically the same thing. There's actually like systems, different ways of handling that, okay? Yes, I used to have a website that we used to do. I guess you're looking at what the hell is that, okay? And make sure that like right there, I see like an indentation, make sure that's, it doesn't stay that way, okay? You could just go back into it. I'm fixing that, okay? So you just click on this. Oh, that's the, whoa. I was gonna say the, okay, I'm clicking it the wrong way. Something has changed. I think one of you didn't publish it, okay. Oh, anyway. See, this is, by the way, is the HTML coding, okay? If you wanna know like what it looks like inside, there it is, right? But the way to get out of that is to click over here and hit compose view. Okay, switch. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right, so that's how you get back into it. But yes, this is actually, if you want to see the actual HTML coding, that's where you go. You go to this left right here, you click on these. Usually it's this icon symbol right here with the less than and greater than arrows. Okay. And then you will see, obviously what happens is that a lot of people, a lot of news organizations have not perfected their systems yet. So if you have like an embed code, you actually will have to go in and basically insert it in here. You have something from YouTube you want to put in here, okay? But it's not necessary because they actually have icons for doing that, like insert video, you click here, okay, upload from your computer. All right, all right. All right, so let's see here, view blog again. There you go. I think one of you, oh, you know what? I think what happened there. Don't worry about that if you see that. This is not perfect, the system, okay? I know that's Tammy Murphy, his wife. The remedy for that is probably just to, make the photo smaller, okay? That'll happen sometimes. It's the kind of things that happen, okay? You'll like be like, I got it perfect, and then like it'll pop up and you'll see that. And basically the fix is a workaround, okay? Just make the photo smaller. And I'll figure it out. A little smaller. You obviously want to make sure Murphy's in that photo. Another thing we'll do is we'll crop it. If there's like an issue where it doesn't work, we'll crop it and crop her out, make sure he's in it, Those workarounds happen all the time. All right. All right, so that's basically how you input a student. Okay? I mean, I know it's almost like probably something you keep on 1,000 times. So why you know that it's really no different than what you do probably do elsewhere. So, okay. Do you have any questions about it?
Is that, I know this is like Blogger, is there another like website that people flock to and how they?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. There's a bunch of them actually. I just use Blogger because again, it's the one that's always been more convenient for me. The one that actually it's escaping my memory right now. It's funny. I've had people even say this to me. There's a system out there that people use a lot, and I'm just having a hard time remembering which one it is now. What's the name of it? They use what? I was at the time, we used this thing called VDT Online. That was a cheesy 70s computer. Now, I don't know why it's escaping my mind right now, but people always say to me, like, you shouldn't use Blogger, you should use this. And I'm like, I never, I just do it for the class, okay? But, what's the name of that system? And, you know, it might be dated now because it was like 5-10 years ago, everybody was using it. Let me know what I'm talking about. WordPress. Thank you. Yes, WordPress is was at least the most commonly used. And with WordPress, you can do like Blogger, it just pretty much tells you this one thing, and that's it. You know, it just has a concept from it, that's it. With WordPress, you can actually like change styles, things like that. And there's other programs out like that there too, but WordPress is the most common. And I've had people say to me over and over again, use WordPress, use WordPress. And I'm like, I'm just trying to show them the, you know, how this is done. That's all. So, but yeah, it's fine. Use WordPress. That's fine. So, I mean, if you were like interested in starting your own thing, I mean, there's people who have like started, you know, essentially like, I wouldn't say alternative publications or something like that, but one of the most commonly used things now in the political media is they're going and like if they're like they leave like a news organization or something, they go to this thing called Substack. You'll find like essentially a lot of people actually who were famous columnists and sort of that sort of thing. They just basically said straight. They were done with like, you know, they're done with working for the news organizations where they feel like it's constraining them too much, so they go here. But the problem with this is almost like self-publishing, okay? So unless you're a big name, you probably won't really have to work at it to get people to see, okay? Again, the most important things in digital media is to publish and see, okay? If you're a big name, you know, you're gonna pop up, you know, so that helps. But if you're somebody who maybe was like a columnist at like, you know, a New Jersey publication or something like that, NJ.com, and you might be well known like in the state, but you know, you don't have necessarily a grip nationally, it might be hard to get traction, you know. And then, you know, sometimes they monetize these things too. You know, they might actually get their own advertising and stuff like that too. And it may be hard to get advertising if you have any clicks, you know. So anybody have any other questions about anything? All right, so what we'll do next week is we'll actually work on the megalomania assignments, they call it, in class, and do the video and the writing itself. Try to make sure you have like some recording done, and then so I can actually look at what you're doing and, you know, help you out.
Yeah, for the email, should we ask like a list of questions or just kind of for review, or should we just email them saying, hey, I'm just here for the assignment and can you give me more information on the lead that we think it is?
I think the 3 basic questions you need to answer are the ones I put up there. Basically, what happened? Actually, another question to ask is what's going to happen to him? What kind of impact is going to have on the company? Start off with those 3 basic questions. I would say. It's like, it's interesting because it's like, you know, it's not, you know, it's, again, the whole idea is that a lot of times, I'm not saying you're doing this, I'm just saying that, you know, a lot of times these kind of things are overthought when actually just usually the best most basic questions are necessary to get the answers you need. And I mean, what happened basically was not necessarily something that's like complicated or business oriented, but just basically stupid behavior. Okay? You want to find out like why that happened. Okay? Right. And if that had any impact on the company. Maybe it did. But you want to find out exactly what kind of impact in terms of reputation, you know. You want to find out if it had any kind of monetary impact, I would say. All right. All right, anything else? Okay. Well, hey, wow, we almost ran it again. That's over already. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. And then let me know if you need, okay?